Welcome to Moonscapes. It's March the 26th, 2013, and we've got a fairly nice looking full moon rising over the eastern horizon. Unfortunately, right now I'm looking through a few bare tree branches that might degrade the image a little bit. But the image looks pretty decent. Hopefully it won't get any worse. Should get out of those trees in a few minutes. Quick apology for the ending of my last video. I had a little bit of a computer glitch, and it cut the video off abruptly. The computer I'm using to run the Logitech camera, I'm running the C910 camera. It's an Acer laptop, and I've only got 4 gigs of RAM on here, so I just ordered another 2. I'm going to stick that in there, and hopefully it'll help the problem I'm having once in a while when this program drops out. So if this program ends abruptly tonight, you know that I've had another computer glitch. Hopefully that will not happen. Haven't got an awful lot to look at tonight. The moon is almost full, as I say, and we can just look at the nice, pretty ray pattern that the moon has. Unfortunately, there's no terminator, where we have nice bright coloring, or not bright coloring, but real sharp detail in craters and all. Right now I'm in the southern highlands, up on top, or over near towards 11 o'clock. Position is the crater Tycho. You can see the ray pattern coming out of that. That's one of the most extensive ray patterns on the moon. Let's see if I can maybe bring that down a little bit and center it. And we can zoom in on that just a little bit. It doesn't help too much now, but you can see that ray pattern. It's pretty extensive. It goes for hundreds and hundreds of miles across the moon's surface. And that double parallel pattern you see right there, that's really, really impressive. Another interesting feature about Tycho during full moon is notice that dark ring around, like a donut ring around it. That's pretty interesting. Most craters at this time show nothing but brightness, and yet we've got that donut ring around Tycho. It's pretty interesting. Just going to zoom around here and take a look at some of the Mar and their nice extensive ray patterns. Coming over on, let's see, that feature up on top, right near 12 o'clock. Let me get this to stop. I've got I'm not sure what that is, and I'm kind of curious myself. Let me just see. I've got my computer program running on my other computer. That's Grimaldi. That dark feature up on top. That's Grimaldi. Color tonight. Actually, I have a little bit of a problem with it. It wants to go to a blue. Turn the color intensity down. Let me get to the color intensity and try playing with that a little bit. We drop it down and it goes natural. If we boost it up, it just wants to go to a blue in this area anyway. Let's move out into the center of the moon. Let's see what it does there. It's interesting to see what it, see now when we move away from the edge, now the color's changing. I've got the color on auto right now. It's pretty interesting how it changes. I'm going to bring this area up here. I'm looking for, let me see. Yeah, let me see where we are here now. Yeah, okay. We are in the Copernicus is down near 6 o'clock, and then Kepler is up near the center. Those are both really nice ray structures. Very impressive spray patterns. And let me see if we go down. I'm going the wrong way here. Go out to this edge. That's really bright. Let's try playing around with some of the controls a little bit here. Let's take the auto off for 1 second and just play with the exposure. We're down in the plateau area. And oh no, the auto's still on. Hold on 1 second, it hung up on me. Let's drop that down. Oh, there we go. Okay, we got a little better control of it. Yeah, they're up near, going towards the 1 o'clock position is the sinus iridium area. We talked about the other night. Well, you can zoom on in that a little bit and see. I'm not running any Barlows tonight. I'm running straight 21 millimeter. There's no sense in putting any real high power in tonight because there's no real structure to look at as far as craters go. So I'm sticking with just a straight through 21 millimeter and just taking a look at what these features looks like during full moon. Something I was thinking about the other night when I was doing my video, one of the very, very early videos. There's a nice view. Right, look at down there at 5 o'clock. Look at Plato, how that stands out, and that mountain range in front of it. Very early on, I talked about some guys back in the 1800s who were the first real mappers of the moon. And we talked about them a little bit. And I kind of skipped over one thing I wanted to bring up about them. And tonight's a good time to do it because we're just going to walk around the moon here and look at some of these pretty ray features. There's not much else to talk about. There were two guys. One was Johann Krieger, and the other was Philip Falk. Krieger was the one that drew those beautiful maps by using low contrast prints, and then added sharp detail from his visual observations and made beautiful prints. This area here, that's the Apennine Mountains. See how it just looks like an arc in there now. We've lost all those all those peaks from the sun angle being right over top at noontime. We have no shadow, so you just have that ring look there, that arc to it. Anyway, Krieger, he made those beautiful maps. And Philip Falk, he was a good artist, drew beautiful maps of the moon, and he was the one that was very jealous of Krieger. But the thing I wanted to point out about those two guys is the tremendous drive they had to do their jobs. They were both doing it as amateurs. Krieger ran a one-man observatory, basically. Was up all night making his observations, drawing his detail onto his prints. The next day he'd open up his office, his one-man office, and spend the whole day working on his prints, his maps, and basically it was a one-man show. And it wore on his I've got a car that just came by. I'm in my car again tonight, in the back parking lot. I'm not at my son's place. We couldn't get at them over there. And I think I got a curiosity seeker here, just wondering what's going on. He's walking over his car. We'll see if he comes over and bothers us or not. But anyway, Krieger spent a lot of time. He actually ran a one-man office and basically ran himself into the ground. And he died very young. And that always impressed me as how much work he put into it. But Philip Falk, the guy who was jealous of Krieger's work, and we talked about that in that first video, as much as you had to look at the man and wonder about him and some of his crazy ideas and his jealousy over Krieger's work, he was a really driven individual. Here we're coming up on Mare, I'm not sure, that may be Mare Serenitatis, and there's something in there we can talk about if we get to it here before we finish up tonight. Philip Falk, he was a school teacher, and he opened up an observatory about a half a mile from the village he was teaching in. And at the end of the school day, all he had to do was walk this half a mile to the observatory and observe. Well, not long after he opened up this observatory, right now we're looking at Proculus down there, 6 o'clock. Notice that sprayed out pattern. We look at that quite often. It's one of my favorite features. And Mare Crissum is that partial cut-off circle right at 6 o'clock. Falk, anyway, he got transferred, and he got moved to another school district 10 miles away from his observatory right after he set it up. So now his work, where he used to be able to do his school teaching and then go off to his observatory and spend his nights there and come back and be at the school for 8 o'clock the next morning when it was right nearby. Now to get to his observatory after school, it required a 3-mile walk through the woods, a 10-mile train trip, and then another mile walk up to the top of the hill of his observatory where it was located near the original school district. Now, you got to realize this is back in the mid-1800s. I don't know what the train schedule was then, but I'm sure they weren't running all night long. And he had to catch an early train back in the morning going back the other way, 10 miles back, the 3 miles back to the schoolhouse, to be in the schoolhouse for 8 o'clock in the morning to teach his classes. Now, this went on for 5 years. I mean, I don't know about you, but I love astronomy. I've been in it all my life. But, boy, I don't know if I can be that driven. And he described something that always stands out in my mind. He describes those days as being very, very tough, and he talked about the winter, and he called the winter cold. He called it an angry cold. And boy, I can tell you, from being out observing in some very frigid conditions, I know what he means by angry cold, and it can be very, very nasty. But in the case of me as an amateur or many others, when you get done, you just go in the house. Well, he was at an observatory 10 miles from his village. He had to spend the whole night there and catch a train back the next day. So those two individuals were tremendously driven. And it's just something I felt I needed to point out because it's part of history, and I find it very, very interesting. Those two guys were just driven individuals. There's a nice view right there. Let me see. What did I leave the color settings? Let's look at the color settings. Is it on auto? Yeah, color's on auto. But let's try turning it up a little bit and see what the color does. And I turn it up. See, now this is very interesting. See the rose color that develops over towards the right-hand side, and the blue up on the upper left-hand corner there, up near 11 and 12 o'clock. And as I mentioned the other night, you got to remember these webcams are doing something that they weren't designed to do. We're asking them to do astronomical observations, and they weren't designed to do that. So. I like the idea that they boast color and bring up some of the color that's there on the moon, but they have a tendency sometimes to accentuate that color. It kind of makes it false looking, but it is kind of neat. And I like to set it like, if I can set it like maybe right about here. See, you get a little tendency that you get a little bit of that blue. And then the mountain areas take on a little more of a pinkish color. See, I'm getting a high CPU message here on my computer. Like I say, I've ordered 2 more gigabytes of RAM memory. I got to get it in this computer. I think it's struggling to handle this program. Even though I'm only doing it at 720p, it's still high definition, and it's tough for this computer. Let me. How far I'm looking at the clock this time tonight. We're 13 minutes in already. As I said before, you just don't realize how quick the time goes by when you're doing this, and you're looking at different objects on the moon and talking about them, and the time just really flies by. I'm going to come back over. I don't think we're going to be able to see it tonight. I wanted to show you the crater Lynn. And we're going to have to do that on the night. I've got it about, let me see, about dead center now. Let's see if it even shows up. It's a very tiny crater. The story of Lynn is very, very interesting. I'm going to zoom all the way in. I think I can see it. It's almost dead center. See that Mars? That's Mars Serenitatis, right in the center of the screen. And almost dead center, there's a barely discernible white patch. I don't know if you're going to see it. My preview screen here is small. Maybe on the full screen view at YouTube when it's up, you may be able to see it. But if you can't, we'll talk about this feature later. That crater is very interesting. In the 1860s, it was observed to be a crater. Then it was said to have disappeared and just was a pit in the crater, or a white mark on the moon, and the crater pit itself was gone. And this went back and forth for many years, and it actually went into modern day, right up to the Apollo era. And it was funny. I saw a trained geologist on YouTube saying how this was still a mystery and there's something very strange going because Lynn was there and then it disappeared. Well, no, it didn't disappear. When we got there with the Apollo missions, Apollo 15, when the lander was on the surface, they were taking photographs from orbit, and Lynn showed up as a beautiful 1 mile, brand new, relatively brand new, a few thousand years old or tens of thousands of years old, as a very, very fresh white crater. And it just changes its look as the moon goes through its cycle from new to full. I can see it. I can make it out here. It's just about dead center. It's that little pit, and it's a little white spot, and it's up near 12 o'clock in that mar that's in the center of the field. And again, our color looks a little bland here. Let's just, let me just try. What happens if I go to auto color? It just gives it a little. No, I don't want to do this. This is not, I'm in the wrong area here. Refocus that up and let me go back. I've got the wrong. Let's see. Here's the color intensity. And yeah, see, it just turns a kind of a rosy look. As I say, I'm in my car again. My son's shed it served its purpose. It works really well for the 4 coldest months of the real year. Let me see, January. When we use it, January, February, March. We're not going to get April out of it. As I says, the moon is following the ecliptic, and it's going to be too low in the sky to get. It would be nice even to have it over the summer months, but I've got to observe now from different locations, and next fall and winter we can go back to using that. Here we are again. I'm trying to find some. I'm trying to find the crater's alphonse and see if we can see it in the high moonlight. Let me back out a little bit and see if they even show up. They're very difficult to find during full moon, but they're interesting because the floor, that's that floor that changes brightness and really causes all kinds of alerts with color. It's basically a center disk now. I think I can just about make out where it is, but it would be very, very difficult to point out to you where it is. But okay, and let's see if we can. Let me see how much of the moon can I get in the whole shebang there. Yeah, that's not too bad. That's zoomed all the way out. Let me see if I can get more of the disk in. That's just about the whole disk, and there you can see the color I'm talking about. Notice the reddish orange in the center of the disk, and then outside you've got the bluish color. And again, I believe that's the camera being fooled by the central obstruction. I'm using my Skywatcher 127 millimeter, the 5-inch telescope tonight. And that has that central obstruction, and I do believe that does cause some problems for the color. If we fool around with the colors, if I drop it down, that reddish, tinge tends to go away, and the moon takes on a more gray, and we increase the intensity, and see that color comes back, and see it comes back very strong in the center, and not nearly as strong around the edge. So this is something we're going to play with for a while. I really want to work on this color issue because there is this issue with several other sites I've seen where they're really claiming, there's all this color on the moon and NASA's lying to us. And as I said before, no, NASA's not lying to us. These cameras are just really, really over-enhancing the color. There is color on the moon. I'm not going to say it's not completely dead gray. There is some color. I've seen some enhanced color work that shows some nice color on the moon. But in general, it is grayish. And if I look at it with the eye right now, we must have a little bit of a haze because the moon, it's got like a kind of an orangish yellow tinge to it here. And you'll see that more in the summer when the sky is hazy. But anyway, I just wanted to get touch base with you tonight again. Like I say, it's a full moon. There's really not an awful lot to look at tonight. I thought I would just get out here and give you a quick look at it, and it'll probably be the last video I have during this cycle, and wait for the next cycle around. We get some new fresh detail. I'd like to discuss O'Neill's Bridge and Mare Chrism, but we have to get that very early in the cycle. Hopefully we can do that next month in April. We would require getting the moon very early in the cycle, or probably within 3 or 4 days after new. That might be a little tough to do. That's another feature that was thought to be a bridge observed back in 1953. It was discovered by an amateur astronomer. There's some interesting history there, and we'll talk about that next time. But anyway, I think I'll call it quits here tonight, and I hope you enjoyed this little look at the moon. Notice that blue way over at the edge there. That's really strange. I turn that color down a little bit. Yeah, see how it goes away when I turn that color down. I just don't know where that blue comes from. It might have something to do with the glass in this telescope also. As I say, it's a Cassegrain telescope, so it has a very large meniscus-type glass lens up in front, and that can give it some blue color also. That might be some of the problem we have. But it's something we'll continue to work on and track down as we go along. I did like the refractor I used the other night, the 5-inch refractor I had with a straight through. That gave a very nice image. A little blue fringing, and I think I know how I can fix that next time around. And that's they have what they call a V filter. It's just a violet filter, and it's made for refractors to cut down that blue fringing. And I think if we use that, we might get the truest color images out of that telescope. So we'll see in the future. We'll try that. We'll work with both telescopes, and we see what we get. So until then, guys, good health, clear skies, and hope to see you shortly with some new videos. See you then, guys.